Ever feel like you're just drowning in information?
Oh, absolutely. Like the world keeps throwing data at you faster and faster.
Yeah, faster than you can possibly process it. And, beneath all that noise, there are these quieter questions,
There's
right?
persistent ones.
Like, what am I really here for? How do I actually know myself?
And maybe the biggest one, how do you find any lasting peace in all this chaos?
If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely not alone. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today.
We're exploring a classic text. It doesn't promise more data, actually.
No, quite the opposite. It promises a path, a kind of shortcut to profound inner knowledge.
We're diving into Paul Brunton's The Secret Path. It's a book from, the mid-20th century?
That's right. But it still feels incredibly relevant today.
It really does. Probably because it tackles these huge, universal human questions, but with a remarkably practical approach.
And Paul Brunton himself, he was quite a character, wasn't he? An adventurer, a seeker.
Definitely. Traveled extensively, especially in the East, spent a lot of time in India, really digging into those spiritual traditions.
And he's often seen as one of the first to kind of translate things like yoga and meditation for Westerners.
In a way people could actually understand and relate to, yeah.
And here's a really fascinating bit. The Secret Path, apparently it was written in this intense burst of inspiration.
Right. Reportedly inspired directly by the Indian sage Ramana Maharshi.
Amazing.
So our mission today, really, is to pull out the most vital insights from Brunton's work.
Sort of like giving you a practical roadmap.
Exactly. A roadmap to understanding your real self and finding that, unshakable sense of peace and wisdom.
Even when life feels completely overwhelming.
Even then.
And the core idea, the central treasure Brunton points to is this quote, "The treasure trove of the real self is within us."
But it can be lifted only when the mind is still. That stillness is key.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this journey. Brunton begins by asking these really fundamental questions, the ones that echo in all of us, I think.
Like, how do we genuinely overcome our flaws or shortcomings?
Yeah, and how do we find our true purpose, make a real difference, not just for ourselves, but, for the world?
And these are not new questions. Not by a long shot.
No way, they're ancient.
Think about the Delphic Oracle in Greece. Know thyself.
Or the Indian rishis saying, inquire into the self.
Right. One ancient sage, a Milesian, I think, even said that to know thyself was the hardest thing of all.
So humanity's been wrestling with this inner puzzle forever, basically.
Pretty much. Which leads to this interesting paradox Brunton points out.
With modern science.
Exactly. Science has made these incredible leaps outward. We can harden metals, send shells across cities, see distant stars. It's amazing.
Absolutely mind-blowing, some of it.
But when it comes to understanding ourselves, our own inner universe, science has, it's often lagged behind.
It's a stark contrast to those ancient sages and seers, isn't it? Their first move was always to look inward.
But what's really intriguing, and Brunton highlights this, is how 20th century science started to, converge with these older ideas.
Even though it started out very materialistic.
Right. You had these brilliant minds, Sir James Jeans, Sir Arthur Eddington, even Einstein, to some extent people grounded in physical science.
Yeah.
They actually found themselves considering mind or consciousness as maybe the primary reality.
Wow, that's a huge shift from the old view that only matter counts.
It really is. Think about Bishop Berkeley's idea. All we know of the world is our reaction to it.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds philosophical, but it bridges the gap, doesn't it?
Right.
You don't experience the world directly, only your perception, your consciousness of it. Your brain literally constructs your reality.
So consciousness isn't just a side effect, it might be fundamental.
That's the implication. Which means, despite all our external knowledge,
we often remain, as Brunton puts it, a mystery to ourselves. Sometimes knowing more about our cars than our own minds.
Sadly, yes. And this is where Brunton introduces something really core to his message.
The Overself.
The mysterious Overself. He describes it as the true, deeper self within each of us.
Not something outside.
No, it's an angelic thing of unimaginable grandeur and mysterious sublimity that, as he says, lives always over our heads. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Like your unchanging core, the calm eye in the storm.
Precisely. The part that's always calm, always knowing, no matter the chaos. He quotes an ancient Indian seer describing it. Unseen but seeing, unheard but hearing, unknown but knowing. This is thyself, the ruler within, the immortal.
And what's amazing is this idea isn't just from India, is it?
Not at all. Brunton shows how this concept of an other self, a deeper self, pops up across hugely diverse ancient cultures.
Like where?
Sumeria, Babylon, the Essenes, the Mayas, even the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece. Their initiation was basically about realizing what the candidate really was.
Wow, so it's universal human insight.
It seems that way. He even points out the similarity between a symbol on an Easter Island statue and the Egyptian cross of life. Coincidence? Or echoes of the same deep understanding?
That our true self is more than just this body.
Exactly. So what does all this ancient wisdom mean for you, listening right now?
Yeah, how does it connect?
Well, Walt Whitman put it pretty powerfully in Leaves of Grass. He wrote, "It is I who am great or to be great. The whole theory of the universe is directed unerringly to one single individual, namely to you."
That's quite a statement.
It is. And he follows up with, "You have not known what you are. You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. Whoever you are, claim your own."
So Brunton is basically saying, building on this, that you already possess this greatness.
Yes, you just haven't fully woken up to it yet. It's about reclaiming what's already yours.
Okay, this sounds incredibly profound, really inspiring. But how? How do you actually do this?
Right, the practical side. And this is where Brunton shines, I think. He moves from theory to very practical, non-technical methods.
Designed for modern people, busy lives.
Exactly. He stresses that truth is a state of being, not a set of words. You can argue philosophy forever.
But that's not the same as experiencing it.
Precisely. The cleverest argument is no substitute for personal realization. You have to find it for yourself.
So what's the core practice?
He calls it mental quiet. It's a specific kind of meditation, really, a simple technique for becoming aware of that highest part of ourselves.
Mental quiet. Like silencing the inner chatter.
Sort of. He uses this beautiful analogy of nature's silent forces. Think of the moon moving vast tides without making a sound.
Ah, okay.
Only in deep silence, he writes, may we hear the voice of the soul. Intellectual debates, he argues, often just muddy the waters.
And how do you cultivate this silence?
Routine. He stresses making it a daily habit, ideally first thing in the morning.
Even for just a short time?
Even just 10 to 30 minutes. The idea is to set the keynote for your whole day, to create this kind of current of spiritual wisdom and strength that flows underneath everything else.
Like building any other important habit.
Exactly. And the central technique he offers for this mental quiet is what he calls the art of interrogative self-reflection.
Interrogative, so asking questions.
Yes. You start by sitting comfortably, maybe closing your eyes, and you ask this really fundamental question: who is this I?
Okay.
First, you analyze the body. Is this body the real I? Brunton says emphatically no.
How does he argue that?
He points to things like abnormal psychology, spiritualism, instances where self-awareness seems to exist apart from the flesh.
Like out-of-body experiences.
Or even simpler examples. Think of Dr. Kreil's observation of severely wounded soldiers sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of their bodies because they were so exhausted.
Wow.
Or just consider someone who's paralyzed. Their body isn't functioning in the same way, but the sense of I is still powerfully there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The self feels separate from the body's condition.
So the self is more like a visitor in the house of flesh, as he puts it.
Okay, so step one. I am not my body. What's next?
Next, you look at your emotions. Ask yourself, is this I, my desires, my doubts, my anger, my love? You observe how these feelings constantly shift and change, like clouds passing by.
But the I feels constant underneath it all.
Exactly. The sense of I remains while the emotions flow through it, so you realize I'm not these fleeting feelings either.
Right. Then the intellect, the thoughts.
Yes, finally you turn to the thinking mind itself. Am I the thinking intellect?
That feels closer, maybe.
It does, initially. But Brunton points out that thoughts are always flowing, always changing too. And crucially, something in us is quietly watching these thoughts.
The observer.
The observer. He also notes that intellect can be lost and regained, like in cases of mental illness, suggesting it's a faculty or a tool the self uses, not the self itself.
So even Descartes' I think, therefore I am.
Brunton pushes beyond that. Okay, there's thinking, but who is the thinker doing the thinking? That's the real question.
So the whole point of this self-analysis is about detachment.
Gently, yes. Detaching your core consciousness from the constantly changing body, emotions, and thoughts.
To find that silent spectator.
The Overself. And Brunton says this process actually makes you more impersonal in a good way. Less tossed around by every little thing that happens. More centered.
Less enslaved by stimuli.
Exactly. And then he reveals this really profound, almost radical idea
What's that?
He says that between every two thoughts, and even between every two breaths, there's a tiny unnoticed gap,
A gap.
a momentary pause. And in that gap, he suggests you actually return, just for an instant, to your primal core self.
Wow.
That's where you unconsciously pick up the life power, the energy to keep going. This hidden activity, this brief return to source, is vital.
So that space between thoughts isn't empty.
Not at all. It's full of potential, full of your fundamental being. It's just that we rush past it.
Now, these sound like powerful practices. Does Brunton offer any warnings?
He does, and it's crucial. He stresses the need for ethical and intellectual safeguards. Meaning, this isn't just about techniques. Without a solid foundation of good character, clear thinking, and humility, you risk self-deception.
Getting lost in delusions or ego trips.
Exactly. Hallucinations, thinking you're enlightened when you're not, that sort of thing. So, character improvement, he insists, has to go hand in hand with these practices. It's essential.
Okay, so you've started this self-inquiry. You're beginning to sense the I that's beyond the body, feelings, thoughts. What's the next step?
Well, Brunton says that thought, this analysis, can take you quite far. But to really penetrate the quintessential nature of the self, you need something more.
What's that?
Intuition. He calls it the new element. And it comes into play when the reasoning, thinking intellect subsides its activity.
When the mind gets quieter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he introduces a very specific and importantly safe breathing technique to help with this.
Safe, as opposed to...
As opposed to some complex yogic breathing pranayama techniques that can actually be dangerous if done incorrectly or without proper guidance.
Okay, so what's Brunton's method?
It's simple. It's about consciously slowing down your breath rhythm, making it calm, gentle, and regular.
For how long?
Just 5 to 20 minutes, perhaps. The aim is to calm the mind by calming the breath. He mentions the Tibetan saying, breath is the horse and mind is the rider.
Calm the horse, calm the rider. Makes sense.
It really does. And the effect can be quite profound.
You mentioned the story about a journalist.
Yes, a Fleet Street journalist.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was suffering from a complete nervous breakdown, just burned out.
Wow.
And he started incorporating just this simple, placid breathing exercise into his daily routine. He not only recovered from the breakdown, but he gained a completely new outlook on life. It shows how powerful these simple foundational practices can be. It wasn't just about calming down, it shifted his whole perspective.
That's quite a testament. So after the breathing, what then?
Then you gently return to that core question. Who am I? But this time, it's different.
How so?
It's less analytical. It's more like making humble, silent requests directed to the Overself, an attitude of receptivity.
Like listening in rather than demanding an answer.
Exactly. Not straining or forcing, just opening yourself to receive insight.
And how does that insight come? Is it like a voice?
Brunton says it often starts very subtly, like soft breath or gentle stirrings within, maybe an intuitive nudge, a quiet feeling of knowing.
Things you might easily dismiss?
Very easily. You might think, oh, that's just my imagination, or wishful thinking. He urges you to cherish these subtle monitions, as he calls them. See them as whispers from your deeper self.
He also suggests another practice, right? Something for throughout the day.
Yes, self-observation. This is about bringing that awareness into your everyday activities.
How does that work?
You just abruptly ask yourself, right in the middle of doing something or feeling something strongly, who's doing this? Or who is feeling this emotion?
To create that moment of detachment again.
Precisely. It helps break the constant identification with the personal, egoic self, the me who is typing, the me who is angry, the me who is happy.
So these three things, mental quiet, the placid breathing, and this self-observation, they work together.
They're complementary, all aimed at gently loosening the grip of the everyday self and allowing that deeper reality, the Overself, to emerge.
It's fascinating when he talks about historical figures who seem to tap into this unconsciously.
Isn't it? People like Mozart, who said his best ideas came when he was entirely alone and completely myself.
Or Leonardo da Vinci staring into ashes to spark creativity.
Right. And Lord Tennyson describing a state where his individuality itself seemed to dissolve into boundless being. He called it utterly beyond words.
Even practical men like Isaac Newton or Lord Kitchener apparently had these moments of deep abstraction where insights just flowed.
They were essentially accessing that deeper wellspring, that quiet space, even without a formal meditation practice as we might think of it today.
So this leads to what Brunton describes as a more advanced stage.
Yes, the conscious cessation of thought, where thinking actually stops.
Stops completely. Doesn't that mean blankness or sleep?
No, that's the key point. Consciousness doesn't stop. In fact, it heightens. It becomes a new and extremely vivid awareness.
Pure awareness, without the constant commentary of thoughts.
Exactly. Imagine the mind is like a busy radio station, always broadcasting thoughts, worries, plans. Pure consciousness is like the silent awareness behind the broadcast. The broadcast stops, but the awareness remains, even clearer and more vast.
He uses an analogy of an atom, right?
Yes. The Overself is like the still, positive charge at the center, while the intellect, emotions, body are like the electrons whirling around it. The center is always still, always present.
And the result of reaching this state?
Profound. An abiding quietude, he calls it. A great peace that invades your inner being. It can lead to an ecstatic union with the Overself.
Like the poet Kabir, he quotes.
My weaving is now in the infinite silence. Kabir, having searched and searched himself, hath found God within him. It's that deep inner discovery, a peace beyond ordinary understanding.
Okay, this is deep stuff, but I can hear people thinking, right, infinite silence, ecstatic union. What about my job on Monday, my bills, my kids?
Absolutely. The practical question. How can these uncommon thoughts, as Brunton calls them, apply to the common needs of the hour? People worry it means checking out of life.
Yeah, I can't just desert the world.
Brunton tackles this directly. He uses a really powerful analogy. A tropical whirlwind.
Okay.
At the very center of the most violent whirlwind, there's a point of perfect calm.
The eye of the storm.
Exactly. He says the person who knows themselves, who has touched that inner stillness, achieves a similar mental equilibrium. They can remain inwardly unmoved, calm at the center, even amidst the world's feverish activity.
So it's not about escaping the storm, but finding the calm within it.
Precisely. It's about fusing worldly wisdom with divine wisdom, not choosing one over the other.
He gives an example, doesn't he? The factory owner.
Yes, an English chemical factory owner.
Yeah.
Every night, this man dedicates half an hour to this practice of mental quiet.
And it helps his business.
Brunton says it does. It inspires his business activities, gives him fresh insights, and helps him maintain this secret liberty of the spirit, even with all the stress and demands of running a factory. It shows it's perfectly compatible with an active, engaged life.
And he points to historical leaders too, right?
He does. People like Oliver Cromwell, Abraham Lincoln, Marcus Aurelius in the West,
On Eastern rollers.
kings like Shivaji and Akbar. Figures who are said to have balanced this deep inner wisdom with effective outer action and leadership. They weren't hermits. They led from that inner center.
So the idea is that the morning practice, that mental quiet, creates something that lasts all day.
Yes, a spiritual current, he calls it. It flows through the day, subtly influencing your work, your decisions, your interactions.
Sharpening your intuition, maybe, making you calmer under pressure.
All of that. And eventually, he suggests it's possible to reach a state where his whole life will be one long meditation, and yet he will be as active as ever. The inner stillness becomes the background to outer activity.
Okay, let's get really practical. How does this spiritual practice actually help with concrete problems?
Brunton gives several ways. First, for guidance. He advises bringing your problems, your troubled hearts, into the meditation, into the white light of the Overself.
To ask for clarity or solutions?
Yes, to open yourself to the right guidance, which often comes as intuition or a clear sense of the right path.
He also has a specific technique for when you're feeling troubled, doesn't he?
He does. When you're upset or worried, first do the placid breathing to calm yourself. Then ask those probing questions again. Whom does this trouble? Who is feeling this anxiety?
The detachment technique again.
Exactly. That inward turning helps you step back from the immediate grip of the ego's reaction. He claims it can even help nullify negative external influences because you're not reacting from that vulnerable personal level anymore.
And he talks about protection, too. There's that story about the Quakers.
It's a striking story. 1775, apparently. A Red Indian chief was approaching a Quaker meeting house, intending to attack. But he saw them inside, sitting quietly in worship, in that state of inner connection. And he stopped.
Why?
He later explained that the great spirit inside Indian, too, told him, no, kill them. His own inner awareness recognized theirs, and it stopped him. It's a powerful example of how this connection can offer a kind of protection.
And healing. He mentioned some remarkable cases.
Yes, he cites examples that sound almost miraculous. A woman named Dorothy Karen apparently healed instantly from multiple severe illnesses. Another case, W.T. Parrish's wife, recovering from cancer.
Through this spiritual connection.
Brunton presents them as evidence of the Overself's inherent life-giving and healing power. When you connect with that source, he suggests, profound healing is possible.
So the overall point isn't necessarily that all your problems will magically disappear.
Not always, no. But the path provides, as he says, courage to battle with poverty, the patience to endure sickness, and the wisdom with which to face misfortune.
It's about transforming your response to life's challenges.
Exactly. You find yourself asking the Overself less for specific material things, perhaps, and more for inner resources. Wisdom, more strength, and more love.
So this balanced approach, inner work, fueling outer action, Brunton saw this as crucial for the West.
Yes, he called it the only gospel which the practical West can use, a way to achieve a higher civilization. It's an East-West message, really, fusing inner depth with practical action to solve problems with new energy and insight.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final takeaway from Brunton?
He brings it back to something incredibly powerful and simple. You have never really parted from the divine power.
It's always there.
Always. He argues that a lot of the chaos and suffering we see in the world stems from forgetting this, from spiritual ignorance, losing touch with our own inner source.
And this path, the secret path, is the way back.
It's a way back. It offers an unshakable foundation even when everything outside feels uncertain.
A source of undying life.
And the chance to gather what he calls the immortal fruits of truth, wisdom, peace, and power. It's all about tapping into what's already inside you, just waiting.
So here's something to think about. If the wisest people throughout history discovered this incredible treasure within themselves, and even modern science is starting to point towards the importance of consciousness,
What might you uncover?
what might you find if you dared to look inward, to cultivate that mental quiet, even just for a few minutes each day?
It's a powerful question.
May peace be with you.